everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. I have some updates for you. Astronomers spot Aurora on the sun for the first time. We're going to talk about Asteroid Apophis. A lot of you already know about this. It's supposed to swing around here in 2029. Is this the sign of the Son of Man? Let's talk about it. And then I have some updates with volcanoes and then earthquakes and hurricanes. So we're going to start with this, and I did this in a recent video. There's multiple scriptures that talk about signs and wonders. And I think a lot of the time when we read these scriptures, we just focus on the word signs and don't really think about what wonders means. So I'm going to do this exercise again. This time I'm just going to read one scripture, but you can see here that I searched the scriptures for signs and wonders. And that phrase together, signs and wonders, comes up a lot more than what I originally thought. You see it in Deuteronomy. That's the first book of scripture that it shows up in. But anyway, you see it in the Old Testament. You see it in the New Testament. You see it in the Book of Mormon. You also see it in Doctrine and Covenants, and then Joseph Smith Matthew, which is, okay, that's Matthew 24, Joseph Smith translation. Okay, so signs and wonders, because there's always people that want to dismiss things because they think that it has to be supernatural, it has to be magic, it has to be unexplainable, okay? And only in that way does it count as a sign. But let's look at this time I'm just going to look at just this dictionary. I like the way that it words it here better. This is the Webster's Dictionary 1828, and we're looking at the word wonder as a noun. That emotion which is excited by novelty or the presentation to the sight or mind of something new. So here we have astronomers spot Aurora on the sun for the first time. Unusual, strange, great, extraordinary, or not well understood. Something that arrests the attention by its novelty, grandeur, or inexplicableness. Wonder expresses less than astonishment and much less than amazement. It differs from admiration in not being necessarily accompanied with love, esteem, or approbation, nor directed to persons, but wonder sometimes is nearly allied to astonishment, and the exact extent of the meaning of such words can hardly be graduated. Okay, so that's what it is, okay? New, unusual, strange, great, extraordinary, stuff like that. Things you haven't seen before. So I got this email, okay? Well, let me read the scripture really quick that I had pulled up. So D&C 45:40, and they shall see signs and wonders, for they shall be shown forth in the heavens above and in the earth beneath. So I got this email from Crystal. Subject line, scientists spot an aurora on the sun for the first time. There are multiple sites that have this information. Because it is the first ever, I thought you'd be interested, and you are correct. Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so we're going to be looking at livescience.com. Here, of course, is an artist depiction of what that may look like. Scientists have spotted a stunning aurora-like display of crackling radio waves over the surface of the sun that is strikingly similar to the northern lights on Earth. Astronomers on Earth detected the bursts of radio waves over the course of a week. Scientists have detected aurora-like radio signals from distant stars in the past, but this is the first time that they've seen a signal of this kind from our own sun. So that's kind of interesting. And I wish I knew more about this. Like, a lot of times these articles don't go into like great detail. Is it because they changed their methods of observing the sun or certain locations? Is it because they're using different instruments now? I didn't really get any of that out of this article. So just for some reason, this is the first time that they've seen a signal like this from our own sun, even though they've seen it before with, other stars. It's important to note they didn't like visibly witness this. This is from bursts of radio waves that I guess they recognize as the type of radio waves that are sent off from auroras. So, but whatever the case, it's the first time that they've seen this. Quote, "This is quite unlike the typical transient solar radio bursts, typically lasting minutes or hours. Lead author Siji Yu, an astronomer at New Jersey Institute of Technology's Center for Solar Terrestrial Research, said in a statement. So, if I'm understanding this right, and again, sometimes these articles don't really make it all too clear. It seems like when they typically see this kind of thing from other stars, if I'm understanding this correctly, that it only lasts for minutes or hours. But in this case, from our sun, and us witnessing this the first time from our sun, it says here it was over the course of a week. Okay, over the course of a week compared to minutes or hours from other stars. So I don't know how significant that is. You know, the article doesn't seem to make too big of a deal out of it. It mentions it, but I don't know that it's. I don't know. I don't know how out of the ordinary that is, other than the way it's presented here. Could it mean something? Is there something going on with our sun in relation to the second coming and the new heavens, the new earth, and whatever changes are going to take place? It could be. So I don't know. I decided to go ahead and note this. It's my most recent entry on my second coming timeline right here, just so that I don't forget about it and so that I can refer back to it again. I don't know exactly when it was observed, because the article, neither other articles that I looked at specified the date. All I know is that the paper that was published that mentions this, that talks about this, was published on the 14th of November. Interestingly, the same day that you had Comet 12P Pons Brooks that had its biggest eruption and changed colors and lost its horns and is now perfectly circular. If you didn't see that video, go back and watch it, because I think it's pretty interesting. Speaking of comets and asteroids and things that are like that, we are now going to talk about Asteroid Apophis. This is something that's been on my radar. I don't know why I haven't really given it attention on the channel yet, but many of you have brought it up in the comments or sent me emails about it. And I don't know, just randomly, I felt like this was the time to go ahead and track this on my tracker. So again, why would we pay attention to asteroids and comets and stuff like that when we know what they are? Again, two things. Number one, I don't think that we can see everything that there is with our natural eyes. So you may see a part of an object, meaning what we're able to detect in our sphere or our dimension, or whatever word you want to use, our phase of existence. But that same object may have more to it in another sphere, another phase, another dimension that we cannot see. So when we see, a big piece of rock that we call an asteroid, yeah, maybe that's all that it is, but maybe it's a piece of something bigger that we cannot see. Maybe there are people there. Maybe there's resurrected people there, or angels, or who knows what. So that's one reason. And then the second one is this. Okay, this is from Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, page 287. Then will appear one grand sign of the Son of Man in heaven. But what will the world do? They will say it is a planet, a comet, etc. And I might add, maybe they'll say, if they say that it's a comet, maybe they'll say that it's an asteroid. Who knows? But the Son of Man will come as the sign of the Son of Man, the sign of the coming of the Son of Man, which will be as the light of the morning cometh out of the east. Okay. So let's read about Apophis. Asteroid 99942 Apophis is a near-Earth object, or NEO, estimated to be about 1,100 feet or 340 meters across. When it was discovered in 2004, Apophis was identified as one of the most hazardous asteroids that could impact the Earth. And I think that's why it got its name. If you go to the bottom of this article, how Apophis got its name, Apophis is named for the demon serpent who personified evil and chaos in ancient Egyptian mythology. And then if you watch Stargate SG-1, the TV series, he's the first main bad guy. But anyway, let's go back to this. when it was discovered in 2004. Okay, no, I just read that. But that impact assessment changed after astronomers tracked Apophis and its orbit became better determined. A radar observation campaign in March 2021, combined with precise orbit analysis, allowed astronomers to conclude that there is no risk of Apophis impacting our planet for at least a century. And then NASA has this really cool visual here where you can kind of like move it around. You can zoom out. Let's see. Can I see the Earth? Do they have Earth on here? There's the sun. There's Neptune. I don't know, but okay, whatever. So it's a cool visual of it. Estimated to be about 1,100 feet or 340 meters across, Apophis quickly gained notoriety as an asteroid that could pose a serious threat to Earth when astronomers predicted that it would come uncomfortably close in 2029. Thanks to additional observations of Apophis, the risk of impact in 2029 was later ruled out, as was the potential impact risk posed by another close approach in 2036. Until March 21st, however, a small chance of impact in 2068 still remained. When Apophis made a distant flyby of Earth around March 5th, 2021, astronomers took the opportunity to use powerful radar observations to refine the estimate of its orbit around the sun with extreme precision, enabling them to confidently rule out any impact risk in 2068 and long after. So it would seem, based on this statement, that Apophis has already been like relatively close to Earth. So it's not like it's like really far out there. And we're going to read more about its orbit in just a minute. But it looks like the last time it was maybe its closest to Earth in its orbit was March 5th of 2021. I checked the Second Coming timeline again. I didn't see really anything happening at that time. If you're aware of anything in that month and year, let me know. I don't know that it necessarily coincides with anything. But anyway, you can see here 2021, and then the next one is 2029, and then 2036, and then 2068. So it comes around. It's not like it's been coming for a long time, and it's like this ominous thing. Now, obviously, if it hits the Earth, that is kind of ominous. We'll just have to wait and see if that's what happens. But it has already been around. On April 13th, 2029, Apophis will pass less than 20,000 miles or 32,000 kilometers from our planet's surface, closer than the distance of geosynchronous satellites. Now think about that. It's going to be coming closer than some of our satellites. During that 2029 close approach, now this is the interesting thing, and this is why maybe we should give it even more consideration. Apophis will be visible to observers on the ground in the Eastern Hemisphere without the aid of a telescope or binoculars. So it'll be visible to the naked eye. And that's a characteristic that I pay attention to whenever it comes to comets, and I guess in this case, this asteroid, just because if it's not the sign of the Son of Man, it could be a sign. Who knows what it'll look like in the nighttime sky? Maybe it'll be incredible. Who knows how it'll affect the observers at that time? Now, I'm not looking as far out as 2029 personally, so I don't even think we're going to get to that point. But it could, and hopefully not, but it could. So anyway, it's also an unprecedented opportunity for astronomers to get a close-up view of a solar system relic that is now just a scientific curiosity and not an immediate hazard to our planet. The orbit of Apophis crosses the orbit of Earth. It completes an orbit around the sun in a little less than 1 Earth year, about 0.9 years. Okay, so it has like a similar period or orbit around the sun. This places it in the group of Earth-crossing asteroids known as ATENs, quote unquote, whose orbits are smaller in width than the width of the Earth's orbit, or 1 astronomical unit. As a result of its close encounter with Earth in 2029, the asteroid's orbit will be widened to become slightly larger than the width of Earth's orbit. At this point, it will be reclassified from the Aten group to the Apollo group, the group of Earth-crossing asteroids with orbits wider than 1 astronomical unit. Again, the article doesn't say, but it seems to imply that because it's going to come close to Earth in 2029, that maybe Earth is going to affect its orbit and make it wider. It doesn't say that here, but that's the way that it kind of reads. Because you know that the gravity of other celestial bodies, planets or moons, can affect other objects' orbits. So I think that might be what this is saying. But whatever the case, in the history of Apophis, it's going to make a transition in 2029. When before 2029, it has a smaller orbit than the Earth. And then once it goes by Earth, it's then going to have a wider orbit than the Earth. So I don't know. Don't know that that means anything. That's kind of interesting, though. I went ahead and put it on my spreadsheet called Signs, Comets, Meteors, and Asteroids. You can see it here on row 4. Let me zoom in. So it will be visible to the naked eye. It's coming the 13th of April, 2029. And then it was discovered on the 13th of April, 2004. Okay. So now I have this on my tracker. Okay. Let's move on from that. So let's talk about volcanoes. You may remember that I did a recent video about volcanoes, and there was a lot of hype on social media about all these volcanoes going off, and I decided to investigate it myself. And it turns out that I think the hype was misfounded. It was based on a misunderstanding of this website, the Smithsonian's, what do they call it? Smithsonian Institution National Museum of Natural History Global Volcanism Program, where it was saying, oh, there's 46 volcanoes that are erupting. But people got, I don't know, I guess I kind of understand what the confusion was. So they put out these weekly reports, weekly volcanic activity report. And then in addition to that, I can't remember what it was, maybe 2 or what was it? I want to say they said something like 6 to 8 weeks. They kind of finalize their data. So you have the 6 to 8 week period, and then you have these weekly reports. And I think people were conflating the two. And they're like, whoa, there's 46 volcanoes all erupting at once. And if that had been the case, that would have been a really sharp increase in the number of volcanoes erupting. Now, it doesn't seem that that was the case. It was just a misunderstanding of the two reports. So since that video, there's been a new weekly report that's come out for the week of November 15th to the 21st of November. This is the most recent one that they have here. So I updated my tracker, and I guess this is what I'm doing now. I'm tracking volcanoes. So here's the newest entry right here. So the last time on the last weekly report, there were 19. Now there's 22. And when you compare it to the rest of the year, that's not really that extraordinary. In fact, there's nothing really extraordinary out of all these different weeks that I've tracked, except for maybe 2 weeks. One was last year, November of last year, where there were 32 volcanoes on the weekly report, which gives that the number 2 spot. This goes back to 2020. I haven't gone beyond 2020 because that's a lot of work. Maybe I'll do that in the future. That's in the number 2 spot. And then March of that same year, 2022, this week was in the number 1 spot with 38 erupting volcanoes. Let me zoom out so we can see it a little bit easier. Let me just give you a recap. So I color coded these by tens. So if it's in the teens, then it's green. If it's in the 20s, then it's yellow. If it's in the 30s, then it's that orange color. So I went back to 2020, and 2020 was mostly green. Okay. It was mostly in the teens, meaning that on average, I have the average. The average number of volcanoes erupting weekly for 2020 was 17.27. So it was a green year on average. Okay. Let's look at 2021. It increases from 17 to almost 21. So this was a yellow average year. So from 17 to 21. And then in 2022, it jumped up to 22 and a half, 22.52. And now for 2023, it's about the same as last year, but a tiny bit more, 22.54 instead of 52. So since 2020, on average, by weekly average, there have been more volcanoes erupting. That's all that I know for sure. And I don't know what anything before 2020 looks like when we're talking about the weekly reports. They do have, I'm not going to find it, but they do have this, thing where you can see eruptions by year. And what we noted there is that in 2004, there was like a spike. There was an increase in new eruptions as well as number of total eruptions that went up. And so there has been like things have increased, generally speaking, since 2004. We've talked about that. But anyway, that's where we're at this week. That's where we're at this week with volcanoes. It is now at 22. Okay. I have also updated earthquakes. The place where I get my numbers for earthquakes is from Wikipedia's articles where they go year by year with earthquakes. So this is the list of earthquakes in 2023, and I use this table right here to update my numbers. And this is what has happened since the last time that I updated it. We've had 8 new earthquakes within the 6.0 to 6.9 range. And then we have one more 7.0 to 7.9. And here are the totals for the year right here. I doubt that there haven't been any new 5.0s or 4.0s. Maybe they just haven't updated the Wikipedia article yet. I would find that very strange that there haven't been any of those when we've had these of greater magnitude. But anyway, I'll update it in the future. They'll get to it at some point. So when we're looking at the 7.0 to 7.9 range, this year we're now at 17 earthquakes that have been within that range. And that's actually relatively quite a bit. You have to go back to 2015 to beat that. So I don't know. That's interesting. We haven't had any in the 9.0 or 8.0 range. But as you can see with 8.0s, if you average it out, they probably happen about maybe every other year, maybe even yearly if you did the average. I don't know. But you know what? I can do the average. Let's see. Equals average. Let's do these cells right here. Yeah, the average is 1. So from 1985 until now, the average is 1. So who knows? Maybe we'll see one this year. Maybe we won't. If we don't see one this year, within either of these two magnitudes, then we'll have gone 2 years without one of these, which is unusual. You'd have to go back to 1993. From 1990 until 1993, there were no 9.0s or 8.0s. And then before that, 1988 and 1987. So it's possible, but I think the more time that goes by, the more likely it is that we're going to see one of these two pop up. So that's where we're at with earthquakes. And then remember, this year, since 1985, has been the 5th deadliest year in terms of death toll. The first deadliest year, or the top deadliest year, was 2004. And then after that, 2010. The 2010 was the Haiti earthquake that killed somewhere in the neighborhood of, over 200,000 people. But then before that, the 2004 Indonesian earthquake, which also resulted in a tsunami. So some of these are tsunami deaths. So probably the deadliest, that's the deadliest or the highest death toll as a result of only earthquake fatalities would be the Haiti earthquake, I think. Okay, and then let's see. The last thing is I've updated my hurricane tracker. I'm not tracking hurricanes worldwide. It's a little bit harder to do. So I'm just focusing basically on what the United States tracks, the Atlantic hurricanes and Pacific hurricanes. Okay. And there hasn't really been any updates since the last time that I updated this. Only 2 new tropical storms in the Pacific right here, which brings the total for this year in the Pacific to 7. And at this point, we probably aren't going to see very more hurricanes in the Pacific or Atlantic, because if you go to the Wikipedia articles, it says that the hurricane season, and this is for both the Atlantic and the Pacific, they go till November 30th, and today is the 25th. So, in fact, let's go to Zoom Earth really quick. Zoom Earth. And I highly doubt there's going to be anything. There's this right here. Extra tropical cyclone Invest 30L. There's this over here. This is a tropical storm right now. And it doesn't look like it's really going to intensify into a hurricane based on these models. But we'll just have to wait and see what actually happens. But most likely the hurricane season is basically over at this point. Okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.